Hey, welcome. So, you've probably been told to just let it go about a million times, right? But what does that even mean? In the middle of a really tough moment, it can feel completely impossible. Well, the good news is, letting go isn't some kind of superpower that only a few people have. It's a skill, it's a practice. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how you can learn it, starting with what it really is.
This metaphor is pretty much our home base for this entire conversation. It just perfectly captures the whole idea. See, letting go isn't about forcing something away or trying to crush our feelings. It's actually the complete opposite. It's about relaxing our effort, opening our hand, and just allowing things to be what they are. This is something so many of us work on in therapy, right? Learning to stop fighting with reality and just release that tight, exhausting grip.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to bust some myths about what letting go even is. Then we'll get into a really cool concept called the two arrows to find the real source of our suffering. After that, we'll get specific about what you're actually holding on to. And then the main event, a step-by-step practice you can use right when you're triggered. And finally, we'll talk about how this whole thing becomes a gentle, lifelong practice.
All right, let's dive into Section 1, Deconstructing the Myth. Before we can even think about practicing letting go, we have to get crystal clear on what it is and, maybe more importantly, what it isn't.
So letting go is not about suppressing your feelings or just pretending you don't care. It's definitely not about becoming some cold, detached robot. No way. It's about releasing our grip, that mental fist we make around how we think things are supposed to be. It's a conscious choice to relax, to soften, and to just allow reality to be what it is in this moment.
And, a core concept that makes this so much easier is this idea of impermanence. It's the basic truth that everything, and I mean everything, is always changing. That tough emotion you're feeling right now, it's not going to last forever. The stressful situation at work, it will shift. When you really start to get that nothing is permanent, letting go of your grip starts to feel less like giving up and more like the most logical thing you can do.
Okay, so now we have a better idea of what letting go is. But how do we figure out what to let go of? Well, in this next section, we're going to talk about a really powerful tool for that. It helps you pinpoint the real source of your suffering. It's called the two arrows.
So, the Buddha taught that whenever we're dealing with something difficult, it's like we can get hit by two different arrows. And honestly, understanding the difference between these two is an absolute game changer, especially if you're working on how you react to things, either in therapy or just in your day-to-day life.
Okay, so the first arrow is just the event. It's the unavoidable pain that's part of being human. For example, maybe someone you love is really upset. That's the first arrow. It happens. But then comes the second arrow. This is the one we shoot ourselves with. It's our reaction, the story we tell, our judgment about the event. It's that inner voice that screams, I have to fix this, or this is all my fault, or they shouldn't be feeling this. That is the second arrow, the self-inflicted suffering we spend so much time unpacking in therapy.
And this right here is the whole point. We can't always dodge that first arrow. Life is just going to happen. But the vast majority of our long-term suffering, it comes from that second arrow. And here's the most amazing, empowering part. Shooting that second arrow is optional. We can actually learn to put down the bow.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 3. If we're going to release our grip, we first have to get really honest about what we're holding on to so tightly. So let's take a look at what you might actually be gripping.
So I want you to take a real moment with this question. When you feel that knot in your stomach or that tightness in your jaw, that rush of anxiety when someone else is having a hard time, what is it really underneath all that you're clinging to? A lot of the time, it's one of these things, right? Maybe it's that desperate need to control the emotional vibe in the room, or if you have this super rigid picture of how things should be. Maybe it's a story you're telling yourself, that their anger means you're a failure, or that their sadness is somehow your job to fix. Just being able to name these things, that's the first step to loosening their grip on you.
Okay, this is where it all comes together. Section 4 is your in-the-moment toolkit. We're about to walk through a super concrete 5-step method for what you can actually do the next time you feel that trigger go off.
Think of this as your new go-to sequence. So let's walk through it. First, just pause. Don't do anything. Bring your attention inside and find where that trigger lives in your body. Is it your chest, your stomach? Second, just name it to yourself. Okay, I'm feeling triggered. I'm resisting this. That little bit of naming creates space. Third, notice that second arrow. Ask, what's the story I'm spinning right now? Fourth, breathe. 3 slow, deep breaths. And on every single exhale, literally imagine your fists unclenching. And finally, number 5, ask this gentle but kind of radical question. Can I let them have their experience while I just focus on having mine? This isn't about not caring. It's about honoring that you're two separate people.
And please hear this. Perfection is not the goal. You're not going to nail this every time, especially not at first, and that is completely okay. The simple, kind act of just trying, of just pausing for a second, of asking the question, that in itself is the win. That's what starts to build a new pathway in your brain. All right, let's head into our final section. This is all about reframing this whole thing, not as a problem you have to solve once and for all, but as a gentle, ongoing practice.
You know, maybe the most important thing to take away from all this is that you don't just let go and then you're fixed forever. It's a cycle. You're going to grip again, maybe in 5 minutes, maybe tomorrow. That's not a failure. It's just being human. The real practice is in the noticing and then in the gentle, kind, compassionate act of releasing over and over and over again.
So I'll leave you with a question to just kind of sit with. Don't try to answer it right away. Just carry it with you. Who would you be? What kind of energy would open up in your life if you released that need to manage or fix how other people feel? What kind of peace could you find just by being with yourself instead of trying to fix everyone else? It's a pretty powerful question to explore. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.